अयोध्या में बन रहे प्रभु राम के भव्य मंदिर की चर्चा चल रही है। राम काज किने बिनु मोहि कहा विश्राम। अब रुकना नहीं है, थकना नहीं है और विश्राम का तो सवाल पैदा ही नहीं होता।
Namaste, Jai Hind and Shubh Deepavali, and this is a very, very special broadcast that I'm welcoming you to, ladies and gentlemen. It's significant on multiple levels. More than 24 lakh diyas will be lit in Ayodhya, a land that was cursed by Sita Maya in the Satyuga to say that it will remain in darkness till sometime in the Kali Yuga. Is that time of the rise of Ayodhya because of the return of Ram and Ram Lala Virajman, because of the Supreme Court and the efforts under the Modi Sarkar? Is that heralding perhaps a rise in consciousness of Bharat, and is that going to herald the rise of Bharat? We'll try and understand this with a very, very eclectic and august panel of experts and guests who are joining us in this very, very special broadcast. Ram Rajya, Maryada, Purushottam, and of course is Ram integral to Bharat. This will be the contours as we celebrate this Deepavali. Joining us this evening from far away in Mumbai is Anup Jalota ji, a person who needs no introduction, and I've always had the pleasure of speaking with him. And I remember on the 5th of August 2020, at that time when the Bhumi Pujan had happened and Anup ji had joined us and I was on ground and had the pleasure of speaking with him on that day, and it was historic. Thank you very much, Anup Jalota ji. बहुत बहुत आभार आपका. Thank you so much for joining us. Here in studio with me is Mayank Jain, filmmaker from the far corner. Mayank Jain, filmmaker, works very closely with the Atharva Forum amidst a lot of other things, making very interesting films. He's got an interest in history also, so we'll try and understand from him. Dr. Anand Ranganathan needs no introduction. A scientist, along with that a political commentator and a keen observer. Sadhvi Pragya Bharti, known for her discourses and her engagements with the youth and people from all walks of life. Bindu Dalmia ji, a regular contributor on the News18 network, on First Post, and also a close watcher of the Modi Sarkar over the last 10 years and the transformation. So first up, from now on it's over to you, ladies and gentlemen, to talk. The questions I'll try and keep as short as possible. Who is Ram for you? Let's start from there. Anup ji, I'd request you to start. कि राम कौन है? How would you define this? If somebody were to ask you कि आपके लिए राम कौन है?
राम हमारी बहुत बड़ी आस्था है। हम जब कोई अच्छे मार्ग की बात करते हैं तो हमारे ध्यान में एक ही बात आती है कि भगवान राम का मार्ग है। हम कोई अच्छी योजना बनाते हैं तो हम सोचते हैं ये भगवान राम के द्वारा प्रेरित योजना है। भगवान राम हमें अच्छे काम करने के लिए प्रेरित करते हैं और हमें यही तो करना है। हमें जीवन में और करना क्या है? अगर हम अपने क्षेत्र में, हम गायन के क्षेत्र में, तो हमको मर्यादित गाना गाना है। मर्यादा पुरुषोत्तम ने हमको सिखाया है, जो काम करो उसकी मर्यादा ऐसी हो कि 4 लोग आपकी इज्जत करें, 4 लोग उसको सुने तो आपका आदर करें कि कितनी अच्छी चीज़ उन्होंने अपने गायन में गाई है। तो ये जो मर्यादा उनके नाम के आगे जुड़ा हुआ है, ये हमें अच्छे मार्ग पर चलने के लिए हमेशा प्रेरित करता है। कोई भी काम हम मर्यादा से नीचे गिर के ना करें। जीवन का उद्देश्य ही यही है कि हम जीवन में जो भी काम करें उसमें कहीं ना कहीं वो लक्षण हो जो भगवान राम ने हमें सिखाए। यदि हम भगवान राम का ध्यान करें तो हमारे ध्यान में यह था कि हमको उस मार्ग पे चलना है जो मार्ग लोगों के लिए भला हो, जिसमें भलाई हो लोगों की, जिसमें हमारी भी भलाई हो। अपने को कष्ट देकर भी हमें दूसरों के भले करने की राह पर चलना है, ये राम ने हमको सिखाया और इसी में अपना भला है। अपने को कष्ट देने में कोई बुराई नहीं है
जी।
अपने को कष्ट देने में हम उस लोहे को और तपा लेते हैं जो हमारे अंदर है। हमारे में शक्ति और ऊर्जा और जागृत होती है जब हम अपने को कष्ट देते हैं। भगवान राम ने वनवास में अपने को कितने कष्ट दिए, कितने कष्ट सहे, लेकिन कितना बड़ा काम करके आए कि राक्षस योनि को समाप्त कर दिया। ये काम जो है हमेशा हमारे मन को ये सिखाता है कि आप अच्छे कार्य करने के लिए हमेशा तत्पर रहें। हमारे लिए वही राम अध्यापक है।
क्या बात है, आरंभ बहुत प्रचंड है। मयंक जैन, हु इज राम फॉर यू? आई एम गोइंग टू स्टार्ट विद दिस विद एवरीबॉडी एंड देन वी विल टेक इट फॉरवर्ड। जी
देखिए, भगवान राम जो हैं वो चाहे सनातन धर्मी हो या फिर जैन हो, बुद्धिस्ट हो, जितनी भी परंपराएं हैं भारत में वो सबके आराध्य हैं। और वो केवल आध्यात्मिक सत्यों की बात नहीं करते और वो केवल उन मर्यादाओं की बात नहीं करते कि जिसमें उन्होंने सब कुछ छोड़ दिया। उनकी एक स्टेप मदर ने कुछ कहा और वो उन्होंने सब कुछ छोड़कर वो चले गए वनवास में, तो वो उनकी लेवल थी। दैट वाज द काइंड ऑफ अप्रोच ही हैड, मर्यादा को स्थापित करने की अप्रोच। और एंड एडिशनली ही डिस्ट्रॉयड many demons who were doing lot of violence at that time. So this is the kind of this is the main thing which I have seen right till the killing of Ravan.
So the establishment of peace by the destruction of the Atatais or those who are disrupting peace.
Yes.
So would you want to look at Ram like that? That's how.
Yes, Atatai Vad is one of the most important part of Hinduism. You know, there are 6 kinds of Atatais. Right? Somebody who would set your house on fire, somebody who would kidnap another man's wife, someone who would steal or rob your house, somebody who would
poison you, you know. And
you know, Duryodhan used to have all these 6 things, you know, all the 6. And finally an Atatai has to be killed. That is what the dharma says, that anybody, and that is what the modern security apparatus also does. Anyone who is a terrorist has to be liquidated. It's left to the human rights wallahs to shout after later on, but the security forces have to liquidate the terrorists.
So the job of establishing peace and to destroy those who are disrupting social harmony or the social
Yes.
fabric. So you would see Ram like that. Dr. Anand Ranganathan, does Ram exist for the scientist in you, or would you lean on those who would say Ram is just a myth?
Let me answer that in 2 ways. One, जब से होश संभाला है, every Indian child knows who Ram is. So Ram is India. एक तरह से भारत की पहचान है राम। जैसे जैसे एज अपनी बढ़ती गई वैसे वैसे पता चला कि the 2 greatest epics that India can be proud of, that India is represented by, are Mahabharata and Ramayana. So Ram is integral to India. You cannot talk of India without talking about Ram. पर जैसे जैसे और होश संभाला, साइंटिस्ट बने, यू नो, बिलीफ से भगवान की बिलीफ से हटे, सो मैनी क्वेश्चंस अरोज, यू नो, मैनी कनंड्रम्स अरोज. तो राम जो मेरे लिए थे उनकी डेफिनेशन भी मेरे लिए चेंज हुई जैसे जैसे मैं साइंटिस्ट बना, डार्विनियन एथिज्म इम्बाइब किया. तो अब जो मेरे लिए डेफिनेशन है राम की, वो एक तो ये जो बचपन में स्थापित थी वो कि राम इज़ इंडिया, India without Ram is not India. वो तो एकदम it's like there, it's static. The other is जैसे अनूप जी ने कहा कि मर्यादा के एक स्तंभ हैं, you know, man of principles. So पर उसमें conundrum ये है कि he is a guiding light for principles for 1 billion, more than 1 billion Indians, कि सही पथ पे चलना है. तो हम बहुत कम ऐसे हैं जो सही पथ पे चलते हैं. ऐसा क्यों है? मतलब उन्होंने हमें सारे प्रिंसिपल्स दिखाए, यहाँ तक कि उनके कुछ डिसीजंस बहुत जारिंग हैं. जैसे धोबी के कहने पे यू नो ही लेफ्ट हिज वाइफ एंड ही डाउटेड. तो बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं जो कि अभी मतलब एज इफ वी रीड दोज एपिक्स वी फील कि नो ही शुडंट हैव डन इट, और यू नो समटाइम्स ही शुड हैव डन इट. व्हाई इज ही डूइंग इट? इट्स इनक्रेडिबल यू नो दैट ही इज डूइंग सो हंड्रेड्स ऑफ थिंग्स. एक तरह से वो जो लाइफ लीड कर रहे हैं वो इतनी आइडियलिस्टिक थी कि इवन दो ही इज नॉट कंसिडर्ड एज अ गॉड, ही इज कंसिडर्ड एज मर्यादा पुरुषोत्तम.
Foremost among humans, yeah.
Foremost amongst humans, you know. Some of the principles even gods don't imbibe that he imbibed. The other sense, जैसे आपने पूछा, is he myth or reality? Is he a historical figure? I have nothing against people who consider him as a real historical figure. पर मेरे लिए reconcile करना that he has to be a historical figure, being conducting so many miracles that I feel are scientifically impossible, be a reincarnation or an avatar of Lord Vishnu, is difficult to reconcile for me. But as far as I am concerned, as an Indian, I feel proud to belong to a country that has produced this person, either in writing or in imagination, or you know, so it's something that is very endearing.
You know, the word Bhagwan is actually alluded to somebody who has one of the 9 different opulences or virtues. Somebody who has all of them by default becomes Bhagwan, is the supreme. But someone who rises amongst ordinary mortals and you want to aspire to over a period of time, these annotations. So I'm just saying from your perspective, as you said, as a Darwinian atheist, the fact that there was a person who was superhuman and who over more than 5,000 years continues to remain in the consciousness of a country deserves some amount of credit. You agree, disagree, साध्वी जी, आप मानेंगे इस बात को? देखिए, एक है कि जो अस्थाई नहीं है उसके पर्सपेक्टिव से राम कौन है, और जो आस्था का विषय है, जैसे अनूप जलोटा जी ने कहा, फॉर यू हु इज राम?
आनंद, देखिए, मेरे लिए तो प्रभु श्री राम हमारे प्राण हैं, और भारत के ही नहीं बल्कि विश्व भर के प्राण है. द लॉट ऑफ पीपल अक्रॉस द ग्लोब हु वर्शिप लॉर्ड राम, एंड फॉर मी लॉर्ड राम इज राइट एक्शन मैन, जिन्होंने लाइफ में सब कुछ सही किया है ना. एक आदर्श बेटे थे, एक आदर्श पुत्र थे, एक आदर्श पति थे, एक आदर्श पॉलिटिशियन थे, है ना. तो आज आप देखो, पीपल कैन लर्न फ्रॉम हिम अ लॉट in all the ways. You were talking about the 9 virtues that God carries, right? He had all of them. If we talk about how he spent his life, उनके पिताजी ने कहा he went to exile. आसान नहीं है, you know, we can't do that in today's world. Can we even imagine of doing it in today's world? Like you can go to the 14 years of exile, और फिर आप आओ और जब आपको you've been offered the kingdom and then you deny it, you know, because you have to do और perform a certain sort of responsibility. और फिर उसके अंदर बहुत सारे आस्पेक्ट है जो कवर होते हैं. उसमें एक आस्पेक्ट ये भी है कि उन्होंने राक्षसों का वध किया, सत्य की स्थापना की. फॉर मी लॉर्ड राम इज परफेक्ट एपिटमी ऑफ सैक्रिफाइस, लव, डेडिकेशन एंड कमिटमेंट टुवर्ड्स नेशन ऑल्सो. आज भी वो जो अभी आपने बात कही, आई वुड लाइक टू रिआइट्रेट इट, 5000 साल हो गए, उसके बाद भी हम उन्हें याद करते हैं. एंड यू नो, व्हेनेवर जब भी भगवान राम की बात आती है, देयर इज अ स्माइल ऑन आवर फेस, यू नो, देयर इज दिस विजुअल इन आवर हेड्स कि कैसे होंगे प्रभु श्री राम. हम सोचते हैं, वी इमेजिन इन आवर क्रिएटिव विजुअलाइजेशन, और आज भी हम उनसे प्रेरणा ले सकते हैं. यू नो, ही इज अ सोर्स ऑफ ह्यूज इंस्पिरेशन. सो दिस इज द बिगेस्ट एस्पेक्ट ऑफ हिज लाइफ, आई वुड से. इससे बड़ा तो कोई एस्पेक्ट नहीं हो सकता कि 5000 साल के बाद भी आप किसी को इतने अच्छे स्पिरिट में याद कर रहे हो. आप सोचो, हमको आनंद कितने लोग जानते होंगे आज, लेकिन उनको कितने जानते हैं. पीपल अक्रॉस द ग्लोब, दे आर सेलिब्रेटिंग दिवाली. कितनी बड़ी बात है. सनातन धर्म is being recognized across the globe.
Yeah, but is it being done because everybody does it, so let's also do it? My parents did it, Bindu ji. For you, who's Ram?
May I take a little different view and not delve so deep into mythology and leapfrog to the last century, which was the beginning of the Ram Mandir movement. I think Ram Bhagwan was always there for us. We prayed to Krishna, to Shiva, to Ram Bhagwan as children. We prayed to Christ, we prayed to Buddha. But in essence, let's leapfrog to the end of last century. It was the Ayodhya Ram Mandir movement that brought about a greater awareness for us as Hindus. Ram today, as your title of your program, what I was told is, how is Ram integral to Bharat and the economy? So I will start with that, that Bharat, Ram Bhagwan is symbolic because of the suppressed psyche of the Hindu community, which was subjugated for centuries by invaders. And today it is a matter of great pride that a movement that started last year finds closure with the consecration of the Sanctum Sanctorum in January in 2024, close to the elections. It is the fruition of a dream of all Hindus. It symbolizes Hindu garv, Hindu astha, Hindu asmita, a renaissance of our culture, our ideological beliefs, our identity, so much more, you know. So to me, Ram Bhagwan, and let's add one more thing here I want to add is that in India today, we do not separate the church from the state. So religion and governance, or religion and politics, is inextricably intertwined.
So you're saying we're technically not secular?
Technically, no. I'm saying secular, definitely. But any political party today is known by its identity. Is it pro-majority community or not? Where Ram Bhagwan, for all of us Hindus, our collective consciousness, which has been suppressed and servile to centuries of invaders, today it is a triumph, it's a victory that we will have our Sanctum Sanctorum, finally, even though we went through the judicial process. And politically, let me put it this way, that the very fact that this movement was started by the Sangh and has culminated and it will be ending during Modi ji's ending tenure, it will coincide with that, will definitely have a huge recency bias in the minds of the voters of the majority community. It will definitely
we'll come to the electoral and the politics of it.
But the church and the
but I want to understand from you. You say he is Ram Bhagwan. So who's Ram for you? That's what I want to...
Ram for me, yes, Ram Bhagwan was a paragon of virtue. He was an ideal son, an ideal brother, and an ideal ruler. And that was the utopian age of prosperity, where people didn't know poverty or starvation. Why was then he, how would I today relate that to today?
No, but that's not true, because if you were to go by the stories and if you were to go by the Adi Kavya itself, so Ramayana itself is called the Adi Kavya, 24,000 verses. No other poem is bigger than this. It's the first and the largest part. Even the Mahabharata is 18,000 verses. It's not 24,000 verses. But Anup ji, आपने अपने करियर में बहुत रिसर्च किया होगा. आपने तो तुलसीदास जी के रामचरितमानस और उससे आगे काफ़ी सारे भजन भी गाए हैं. तो मैं आपसे ये जानना चाहता हूँ कि आपको क्या लगा कि राम इतने स्पेशल क्यों हैं, और क्या वजह है कि युगों युगों से राम भारत के चित्त में है, मन में है. तो जब आप अपनी रिसर्च कर रहे थे, कभी आपने ये प्रश्न पूछा अपने आप से?
आपके इस प्रश्न पर मुझे एक गुरु नानक देव जी का शब्द याद आ रहा है
जी,
कि दुख सुख दोनों सम करि जाने और मान अपमाना, हर शोकते रहे अतीता, तिन जग तत्व पछाना. इसका मतलब है, भगवान राम को जब ये कहा गया कि अब आपको राजा बनाना है, तो उन पर कोई रिएक्शन नहीं था. फिर उनको कहा कुछ समय के बाद कि अब आपको 14 वर्ष के लिए वनवास जाना है, तो भी कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ा. मतलब न वनवास जाने में कोई फर्क है, न राजा बनने में कोई फर्क है, क्योंकि ये माता पिता की आज्ञा है. ऐसा कौन कर सकता है? यूं ही थोड़ी मर्यादा पुरुषोत्तम नाम रख दिया गया. ये कौन कर सकता है? क्या पता लग जाए राजा बनना तो उछलेगा नहीं, पार्टी नहीं करेगा इंसान। और पता लग जाए कि 14 साल वनवास में जा रहा था, रोना पीटना नहीं शुरू करेगा, कोई असर ही नहीं। इसको कहते हैं मर्यादा पुरुषोत्तम श्री राम। और हमें केवल उनकी कहानियां नहीं सुननी है, हमें केवल रामचरितमानस नहीं पढ़नी है, हमें वो अपने जीवन में उतारना है। अगर जीवन में नहीं उतारा तो ना पढ़ने से फ़ायदा है, ना भगवान राम का भजन गाने से फ़ायदा है। मैं आपको 2 पंक्तियां गा के सुनाता हूँ जो हम सबको अपने जीवन में उतारनी चाहिए। तुलसी की रामायण बोले, रामचरित अपनाओ, केवल पढ़ो नहीं अपनाओ। तुलसी की रामायण बोले, रामचरित अपनाओ, धर्म कर्म की मर्यादा में, धर्म कर्म की मर्यादा में जीवन सफल बनाओ। तुलसी की रामायण बोले, रामचरित अपनाओ। राम इतनी बड़ी चीज है कि पॉलिटिक्स में तो मतलब उनका इस्तेमाल कहीं हो ही नहीं सकता। वो तो स्वयं निर्माता है हर चीज़ के। हम कहते हैं जी राजनीति में लोग कहता है उनका इस्तेमाल हो रहा है, उनके नाम का समय, ये सब कुछ नहीं है। वो हैं इतने महान कि हर चीज़ में तो वो हैं, तो इसमें नहीं होंगे क्या? कहाँ नहीं है राम? राम सर्वव्यापी हैं। राम का नाम लेकर ही हर चीज़ शुरू होती है, हर चीज़ ख़त्म होती है। राम नाम अति मीठा है, कोई गा के देख ले, आ जाते हैं राम, कोई बुला के देख ले। हम तो इसी मार्ग पर चलेंगे और भगवान राम को अपने जीवन में ही उतारेंगे।
क्या बात है। बट यू नो देयर इज ऑल्सो दे से दैट वेर एवर यू आप राम जप रहे हैं तो वहाँ हनुमान होते हैं, बिकॉज राम नाम जप उनके लिए बहुत स्पेशल होता है। फिर देर आर सो मेनी वेज दैट इट मैनिफेस्ट वेयर दे से राम राम रामेति रमे रामे मनोरमे सहस्र नाम तत्तुल्यम राम नाम वरानन। दैट मीन्स 1000 names of Vishnu is equal to just saying Ram. But somewhere Anup ji, did somebody ever ask you कि आप हमेशा राम और श्याम ये भजन क्यों गा रहे हैं? Was there a phase where people told you don't, ये हो गया खत्म, it's over, this market is over, this is something which is commercial? Did you see an effort to try and wean society away from Ram, from this bhakti, from this entire consciousness? Let's take the conversation forward.
देखिए
जी
मुझको बहुत ऑफर मिले कि मैं फिल्म में गाऊं। सभी म्यूजिक डायरेक्टर चाहते थे मैं फिल्म में गाऊं। मुझे आनंद आ रहा था भजन गा के, अब मैं क्या करूं। मैं जब राम के भजन गाता हूं, कृष्ण के भजन गाता हूं, तो मुझे जो अंदर वाइब्रेशन होते हैं शरीर में, वो फिल्मी गाना गा के नहीं होते। अब मैं क्या करूं। तो मुझे तो इसी में मज़ा आ रहा था, मैं इसमें अपना जीवन इसमें डाल दिया। मुझे 63 साल हो गए भजन गाते हुए, 63 years. I was 7 years old when I started singing भजन on stage. आज मैं 70 साल का हूँ और अभी मैं 30-35 साल और गाने वाला हूँ ऐसे।
क्या बात है प्रभु,
क्योंकि मुझे शक्ति मिलती है।
यस
मैं 2 घंटे का कॉन्सर्ट करता हूँ, मुझे लगता है 2 घंटे और कर सकता हूँ, मेरे अंदर वो ऊर्जा और आ जाती है। तो ये शक्ति कहाँ से मिलती है? ये वही तो दे रहे हैं जिनको गाता हूँ। तो आई एम एंजॉयिंग सिंगिंग दिस एंड दिस इज रियली my life, part of my life, everything in my life.
You know it's going to be a good briefing when you have a former PRS director and acting as
G7 foreign ministers in Japan. Obviously, they held in-depth discussions about. Just a brief update on the crossing at Rafah. Over the last 24 hours, more than 80 more trucks carrying humanitarian aid was able to enter Gaza. That brings the total to 650. Again, not enough. We're going to continue to work to push that. And as of now, we're aware of more than 400 Americans and family members who have been able to depart and sought the support of our embassy team on the ground in Egypt. There has been no change in that number since yesterday. So no more U.S. citizens or family members got out since the last time, well, since yesterday when I was up here talking to you guys. Prime Minister Netanyahu talked about an indefinite period where they would be on the ground. I think he was referring to the idea, the fact that in the immediate aftermath of conflict, it's it's certainly plausible that for at least some period of time, Israeli Defense Forces are still going to be in Gaza to manage the immediate aftermath and the security situation. But that nothing's changed about our view that that shouldn't be the long-term solution, that it shouldn't be about an IDF reoccupation of Gaza as a long-term governance solution. Certainly the American citizens that we know are being held, but all of them. And in order to do that, as we saw with the first 4 that got out, 2 Americans and then 2 Israelis a couple of days later, there was enough of a pause in the fighting to allow for their safe passage, and that's what we're trying to get cemented, is an agreement for as many pauses as might be necessary to get all of them out. But it's a delicate negotiating process, and we're still working at it. What I can tell you is that we want to stay open to the idea that it might take, in fact, likely could take, more than one humanitarian pause to get them all out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank you so much.
For a second day in the row, the International Committee of the Red Cross, the ICRC, was able to escort 6 ambulances out of Gaza City and to the Rafah crossing with Egypt, where I'm currently stood. We also entered Gaza with several trucks of vitally needed medical assistance that we planned to donate to different facilities that are in desperate need of medical items, including the Al Quds Hospital, which is managed by the Palestinian Red Crescent, our main partner. The ICRC, due to serious security challenges on the road, which included one of our trucks being impacted and with one of our drivers being injured, was not able to go ahead with the plan as we intended. We were, however, still able to deliver the majority of the assistance that we had with us to one of the major hospitals within Gaza City, Al-Shifa. These are not conditions under which humanitarians can work and meet the urgently required needs of the civilian population. Humanitarians, hospitals, and civilians must be protected under international humanitarian law.
In the last week, I've had to tell a father that his child has non-survivable burn injuries. We've had to treat with the team patients, young children that have been pulled out of the rubble after 48 hours. Today, we had a patient in theatre for further surgery, extensive surgery she's already had, and had lost 2 children in the attack that wounded her. We're still getting patients.
This entire Ram Mandir movement has been branded as the BJP's, political movement to, stand up there as an alternative. But could that have happened unless there was a societal need for it or a societal call for it? Like, instant Teen Talaq came from society. It was an insight that came from society. So, where do you stand on that?
Yeah, but first of all, just to extend the ideas of Mayankji, I think I love it when an idea that is accepted by either a majority of people or a minority of people goes through fire before it is accepted. When things come very easy to me, I kind of lose my fascination or obsession for imbibing that idea. So I don't mind people deliberating whether Ram exists or not, or whether religion is good or bad, or whether Hinduism is. The problem is hypocrisy. All the people you talked about were only trying to run Hindu ideas through this ringer. They were scared about other faiths. So that's number one. Point number two is why India would always be associated with Ram and vice versa is because, I mean, let's look at this panel. I am the one who's an atheist here. All the others are believers. Everyone else knows the concept of atheism. That still hasn't made them into atheists, right? So there is, to give them the benefit of the doubt, they have been exposed to a contrary idea that God doesn't exist, and yet they believe in God. I think that's beautiful in one sense, that they've the idea that they have, that they possess, has gone through fire. So I don't mind that. The problem is hypocrisy. But to come back to this thing, I think we have to go much deeper than a political party or a movement, Anand. We have
but
to.
It was a political movement that brought it about in our consciousness. It brought it. It was a resurgence. Ram Bhagwan was equal to Lord Krishna or any god.
Yes.
Why are we just talking about Ram Bhagwan?
Yes.
We have thousands of gods in our
Yes.
No,
mythology.
we technically we're supposed to have
But he
33,
dominated consciousness.
and their manifestations are into thousands because
Right,
it's
but
there.
In
Yeah.
Hinduism, it does not matter whether you are a believer or an atheist. It does
Yeah,
not
I
matter.
was
We're not
about to
going
say,
into
I
that.
mean, we
Because
have,
That's not the
for
topic.
example,
Yeah.
Charvak philosophy. You have Dayanand Saraswati. The great reforms that have happened
Yes.
have happened only in Hinduism because it is a philosophy. Here religion is an offshoot of a way of life. Hence it is amenable with mutations. But to come back to this, I think you're right in many sense that
Anandji,
the
Ram
Ram
Bhagwan
movement was a
movement,
because if you look at, for
absolutely.
example, other movements that should have happened, according to me, that any temple that is destroyed rightfully should be built up. But then we did not see, for example, a Kashi Vishwanath movement. We did not see a Mathura movement to the extent of the Ram Janambhumi movement. So, and is there any differentiation between...
Not that there weren't fights. Not that
Of
there
course,
weren't fights
absolutely.
with Gyanvapi
Yes.
or court arguments
Yes.
were there in the
Yes.
1930s, even the 1800s. There have been fights about Kashi Vishwanath.
And that's for Lord Krishna and Lord Shiva.
Yeah.
So there is no way they are lesser than Lord Ram.
Exactly. That is
And
my
yet
point.
we had the Ram Janambhumi movement. So
Which gained
See,
coinage
this is a-
and top of the mind recall because of the Ram Janambhumi movement of the last century. Which is why today we are talking about Ram Bhagwan, because in January we see fruition of our pent-up dreams of seeing a sanctum sanctorum.
And just to add to that, you see, it's also quite not amusing, but it is something that the fact that in the case of Ram Janambhumi, the decision of the Supreme Court was a bit tricky, let's say that, because there was no visual sight of the temple, you see. So ASI came in, they gave reports, radar reports and everything. They said, look, there is a grand Hindu temple of Hindu origin beneath that, but eyes could not see it, right? So there was, the other side was always having this facade of conjecture. But in the case of Kashi Vishwanath, you could see the part destroyed temple, right? So it is the easiest thing to reclaim. In the case of Mathura, you can see the destroyed temple. So, and yet the movement was of Ram. I mean, this has to be explained by, political commentators and analysts.
But why was it Ram Janambhumi? Why was it about? There are three aspects. See, the VHP. So let me ask Sadhviji also. The VHP would talk about it, and within the Hindu consciousness, it's been there that the three Janambhumis and the three core areas have to be, along with, of course, all the Jyotirlinga and the Shakti Peeths. We want to revive all of that, but core for the Hindu Astha and Sanatan is Adi Vishweshwar, Krishna Janambhumi and Ram Janambhumi. Three places which were non-negotiable, saying 30,000 mandir tod diye, ye teen hame banane do. This was always somewhere the call. Why was it so important?
See, Anand, अगर हम इन तीनों की बात करते हैं, if we talk about Lord Ram, Mahadev and Lord Shri Krishna, right? If we talk about them, तो मैं ये कहूँगी भगवान श्री कृष्ण हमारे प्राण हैं, भगवान श्री राम हमारी आत्मा है और भगवान शिव महादेव हमारे शीश हैं, तो हमें तीनों ही चाहिए. इसके बिना द ह्यूमन इज इनकम्प्लीट, राइट? दिस इज द बिलीफ ऑफ अ कॉमन हिंदू मैन जिसको आस्था में विश्वास है, वो ये सोचता है, राइट? कॉमन हिंदू, कॉमन हिंदू. आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट द कॉमन हिंदू जिसको आस्था में विश्वास. आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट जिसको विश्वास नहीं है. आई एम टॉकिंग फ्रॉम अ पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ अ पर्सन हु बिलीव्स.
I beg to disagree. I want them more than possibly you want them.
even though he's proclaimed atheist, declared atheist.
But I'm not saying anything. I'm not.
Okay. Let us complete.
I'm sorry. I interrupted. Please continue.
See, my point is, we really wanted back because ये तीनों तो हमारी आस्था को represent करते हैं, you know. अब ऐसे तो the fight is, it will go on. 40,000 मंदिर हैं जिनकी लिस्ट तैयार हो चुकी है. We don't want to, you know, like go on those lines or create an environment in the country which is uncomfortable for everybody. We don't want that. We just want, and what are we asking? What was ours? We are demanding what was ours. हम कुछ ऐसा तो डिमांड नहीं कर रहे हैं ना जो हमारा नहीं था. What we are saying to correct the injustice of the past, to correct the wrongs of the past, and we have every right to demand that because it is our आस्था, it is our strong belief system. और सबसे बड़ी बात अगर आप देखो ना, आनंद आपने एक बात करी among the discussion you people were talking about कि एक पार्टी से ही इसको एसोसिएट किया जाता है, राइट? Why? किसने कहा प्रभु श्री राम काल्पनिक है? Was it necessary for the Congress party specifically, if I would say, to question the existence of Lord Ram? Was it necessary for them to say that the Ram Setu is man-made? Was it necessary for them to claim that they are not Sanatanis, they are not practicing Sanatan Dharma, but as and when required, they will use Sanatan Dharma and Lord Ram as a political tool. They will wear Rudraksh and they will visit the temples as and when required. Was it necessary for them? Who said? And we all are proud of this moment. I believe you are equally proud of this moment. Yes. We all are about to witness, you know, the Ram Lalla's like settling back. But my question is Congress equally proud of this moment?
See, my point is, I'm not going to today in this aspect. It's very easy to wear into the politics. I'm going to steer clear of that. My question is that no political traction would have come unless there was a societal demand. Let's take the conversation forward. And with Binduji, we'll take it. Mind you wanted to make a point, so please make your point, and you can add on to this question. What next now? मंदिर तो बन गया, प्राण प्रतिष्ठा हो गई. ये दीपावली, last दीपावली before Ram Mandir and Ram Lalla is not विराजमान. Next दीपावली will be inside, दिए जलेंगे at Ram Lalla. What next? What does this augur for us? What does this bring for Bharat? Let's take the question to a larger aspect of nation. Yes.
See, when the Ram Janmabhoomi movement picked up steam, so then, you know, a chain reaction started. Almost you could see that happening in all the states. There was a lot of commotion, there was a lot of energy which was emerging out of this movement. And at some point, the leaders would have thought that it was difficult to control that kind of chain reaction, because it's very difficult when it is going beyond your control. You don't want certain things to happen, but people start doing it on their own. They may start violence somewhere, and some new leaders start emerging out of this, and they may be highly aggressive as compared to the previous lot. So it is a whole lot of problems for them, for the existing leadership. So they put cold water on it, so that it stays like that for some time, for maintaining the status quo. So otherwise, all these things which you are talking about, Dr. Ranganathan, all these other temples, this would have really happened, but it was deliberately, perhaps deliberately, cold water was put on it.
No, but did that turn, has this turned more people towards Astha, Bindu Dalmaji? What has it done for us? And going forward, what was it going to do? Why is it that you would want to credit Prime Minister Narendra Modi and this government for doing something which nobody else did? 370, yes, it is something which was deemed impossible. They did phenomenally. This court judgment could have come under any government, anybody.
It could have, but they pursued it to its logical conclusion, Anandji. And it is because of this movement, again I go back, that it has pervaded our consciousness and given us a sense of assertiveness, a sense of identity as being proud Indians. one aspect of your conversation
Yes.
that no one has touched on, which you had initially talked of, was Ram Rajya.
Ram Rajya, yeah.
Ram Rajya, I think we are talking a lot about the past and mythology and did Ram exist, did he not, who brought about the movement. What about Ram Rajya in context to the present government?
Correct.
What was Ram Rajya? It was a utopian period, an idealistic notion of a nation where Ram Bhagwan presided with wisdom and compassion as a ruler. There was no difference between the ruler and the ruled. They formed policies.
So the law applied to all.
Law applied to all, speedy justice, and where there was no poverty. Let us jumpstart again now to how this is reflected. These paradigms are reflected in today's governance. Modi ji, all his social sector schemes, which are so pro-poor, where even as recently as few days back, he has extended the Ann Yojana by 5 years more. Whether it's been the Awas Yojana, the Jal Yojana, any of the Yojanas that you take, the flagship programs of the government.
Is to empower.
Is to empower the poor.
The weak, yeah.
So Ram Rajya was about no poverty, no starvation. So that was something this government did. Okay. This government has been pro-poor as also pro-business. Without the economy, Ram Rajya cannot happen, prosperity cannot happen. So without a strong economy, today the Modi government, as per UNDP report, has pulled 415 people since 2005 out of multi-dimensional poverty, out of which, Anandji, you would bear me out, the Niti Aayog report, since you've got your statistics so well in order, the Niti Aayog report 6 months back said, most of this multi-dimensional poverty index elevation happened in these last 9.5 years. So we have to talk of,
So it all boils down to the economics? But
Ram Rajya prosperity is synonymous
but
with
what
prosperity.
kind of economics does it come down to? And Ram Rajya also happened after a war. So there was a huge amount of violence to quell those who were violent, to establish, to bring about peace. Now, this is something which even modern exponents of the art of war, or those who would say strong, that you have to have a war or you have to fight to establish peace. So Ram did that. Ram was unwavering in his understanding that you need to have military might, you need to have allies who would support you. So would you also want Bharat to look at that direction? Do you also agree that a certain level of spiritual consciousness and rise cannot happen unless there is economic prosperity and also a certain level of martial strength?
Anand, it is a very valid point that you are asking, but before that, since we were talking about the current Prime Minister, why is he being credited to this, the success of the Ram temple? I would say one thing, if you remember, there were political comments in past few decades कि मंदिर वही बनाएंगे, तारीख नहीं बताएंगे. I'm reminded of that. Now we have a date to its inauguration. We have a date on 22nd January 2024. A historic milestone will be reached in the rich tapestry of Indian civilizational history. Because the inauguration will take place very soon, and the birthplace of Lord Ram is all set, So I believe this is the biggest day for all the Hindus, serving as a source of spiritual significance for all of us. And as a Hindu, I'm filled with deep emotions, and as an Indian, my heart swells with pride, because knowing this momentous event fills it fills me with pride. It
Correct,
gives
but
me
the person sitting next to you is the author of a book which says that 8th class citizen in Hindu, the Hindu is an 8th class citizen in the Hindu Rashtra perceivedly, and that's why for him building the temple is not enough. So let's take it forward from there. What else needs to be done? Anand Ranganathan and then Mayank.
I think we Indians are a very emotional people. So I think, but naturally we get carried away. May I humbly disagree with my fellow panelists on the question of Ram Rajya and whether today Modi ji is pursuing Ram Rajya. I think it's stretching it a bit, maybe more than a bit, because if Ram Rajya is alleviating poverty, is building homes for the poor, is giving justice, then every government, some to a lesser extent, some to a larger extent, has done it. we have to go back, not to Rome Rajya, but Ram Rajya. Even then, 2004 to 2014, there were a lot of toilets built, gas cylinders given, a lot of things were done. It's just that the pace is not exponentially higher, but is much better, delivery is better. But that doesn't mean that, quote unquote, people weren't pulled out of poverty. Even the multidimensional poverty, 415 million pulled out of it in the last 15 years. So 6 years of UPA plus 9 years of this. So, things happen.
So the peace
at the same time, in Ram Rajya, when you have, let's say, Prime Minister Modi saying that, someone called Ajit Pawar is intensely corrupt and has indulged in a corruption of 70,000 crores, and next day you induct him in the government. Is that also happening in Ram Rajya?
We are veering into politics.
No, I'm just telling you, it's important to realize
his point of view is walking the talk. But
so,
in your book, you also say that core.
Now I was coming to that. So what kind of Hindu Rashtra is this? First of all,
development or politics? Development links to Ram Rajya. You're talking politics and corruption.
But somewhere there can be an argument that both can be interlinked.
Were the rulers in Ram Rajya corrupt? No.
No.
Right? Rulers in this Ram Rajya, if you want to call it, are corrupt.
We can't implement Satyug in Kalyug,
No, but I guess we are
is
moving
Kalyug
towards
going
it.
Okay, now let him make his point. What are we moving towards? Let him finish his
this important point.
Sure.
I firmly don't believe, unless there is a concrete evidence of it, that Modi ji or this government has got anything to do with this Ram temple.
Okay.
Right? As you said, Tariq nahi batayenge. It could have, the judge could have said, look, our verdict will come in 2028, 2029. It's up to them. It didn't come in the first 6 years of the Modi regime, right? It came in after the first. So these things happen with or without the thing. The bigger issues that affect the Hindus are civilizational. That is not just the 3 pillars of what you say consecrate Hinduism, but 40,000, even if there are 100,000 Hindu temples that have been destroyed, have to be reclaimed, right? It is not just a question of 3. What is just, and you cannot make that distinction. But
because Ram didn't.
Those
who have to die,
what
died.
Kind of justice it
in
would
whatever
be.
fashion. Like Bali was killed.
Yes.
In perhaps an unfair manner, but he had to die, so he was
killed.
He
was an Atatai, nothing unfair in killing an Atatai.
Right, but you
look at, for example, you can kill the Atatai.
What kind?
You look at temples,
then I'll
temples continue to be under state control, under Congress control, governments under Modi. Temples continue to be lakhs and crores of income, temple income, is being usurped by the governments, both center and states, right? Just today, yesterday, Anand did a program with T.R. Ramesh, where a government, Tamil Nadu government, has blatantly usurped the money of a very 1500-year-old temple in Tamil Nadu, just to make a shopping complex. Nobody can do anything about it, This is happening in Ram Rajya. You have things like the Waqf Act, where you can declare a temple that is 1500 years old. The land that is built on it is Waqf land, when Islam is only 1300 year old. These things are happening today. What kind of Ram Rajya or Hindu Rashtra is this, where you have Places of Worship Act, where you can't even seek justice to reclaim your broken temples? And there are so many others, RTE, thousands of Hindu schools are being preferentially shut down because of discriminatory articles and amendments. So a lot needs to be done. It's not a question of we have arrived at Ram Rajya.
No, we have not. Nobody said that we have
not.
arrived. The idea was that we are walking on the principles of Ram Rajya.
Paradigm I have seen of a meteoric change in development, in anywhere you look around, in alleviation of poverty, in our living standards, ease of doing business, ease of living. It has happened during this 9.5 years. Definitely.
You make a very strong argument, and there is also another aspect, Mayank, that everything happened step by step. Ram did not pick up the Dhanush overnight. He was not capable enough to even win Sita at the Swayamvar till the tutelage of Vishwamitra happened. So it is a stage by stage aspect. What stage are we in? And are we as a nation gearing up to perhaps make that, jump, take that leap from being an ordinary prince to somebody who's there to change the direction of Bharatvarsh itself? That's the question.
You have a Prime Minister who says this is the era of peace, it is not the era of war. What more? Why are we looking at war when it is an era of peace? He today has gained international stature, Modi ji, with wherever there's conflict. So we are getting above that. We're trying to rise above.
But Binduji, what I'm trying to say is, when the Prime Minister says this is an era of peace, the moment he says that, there is conflict on all around us, and there's the other.
That's because we are a very noisy democracy.
No.
And very pluralistic.
No. Not just
talking in India.
Not just in India. In India, internal strife is one aspect. Externally, also we are surrounded by conflict, which could affect our.
But what is the ideal of your leader?
Correct.
He says he wants.
But you cannot. You can
peace.
talk peace. You can talk about peace, and that too. If I were to, not from Ramayana, but even from Mahabharata, if I were to move away from one yuga forward, even Krishna could talk peace only with the fact that everybody knew nobody can mess with him because he has the Sudarshan in his hand. No, you please understand that.
So now we've gone to Krishna.
No, I'm just saying, even with Ram.
No, I'm happy because I'm not just focusing, it shouldn't just be Ram Bhakts.
No.
All these gods.
There is a reason why. There is a reason why. Interestingly, in the 17th century.
We are at an inflection point.
Yes.
And that inflection point is, should India continue to remain a soft power? Or do we have it in us to become a hard power?
Yeah.
Soft power means culture, goody things, all the great things, that dance and everything. Hard power, if you look at all the countries that are in the top index of soft power, top 30, are also hard powers. Now, what makes a country hard power? Ultimately, it is the wealth. Ultimately, it is GDP.
Yeah, and also marital prowess. Martial prowess.
Yes, no doubt about it. With our size, we just won't be Luxembourg. But at the end of the day, you look at our GDP per capita, it is $2,500. When we.
But it's far better. It's far better.
In whose era?
Yeah,
it's
less. I'm saying it's less.
It's less.
But I'm just saying it's just
pitiful.
It's better than 10 years ago.
It's better.
It's better than 10 years.
It's
better than 10 years ago. It will be better 10 years later.
We hope to touch, according to Morgan Stanley, 7 trillion within the next 3-4 years.
Yeah, but that 7 trillion has to also translate into individual levels. That's an argument.
It has a trickle-down effect, Anandji, because ours is an infrastructure-led growth, which has a multiplier effect on the economy.
But as we light diyas, 24 lakh diyas in Ayodhya, please understand that in a place like Melkot, for the last 555 years plus, they don't light a single diya on the day of Diwali because they believe they have not yet got closure after what Tipu Sultan did to them. So that closure has to come too. I'm just making an argument. Like I gave the example of Krishna, but Ram also stood in front of the Sagara and said, I will dry you up. And he said, all right, I'll help you build the Ram Setu on me, because he had that power. We as a nation cannot ask somebody to be peaceful or somebody to behave till the time we are powerful enough. Are we powerful enough? Is that one of the things, one of the boxes that we as a nation need to tick? Are we industrious enough? Are we working hard enough, like they did under Ram and the Ayodhyans did under Ram, for establishing Ram Rajya? Mayankji, final word. I've got to wind up after this. Chief.
The thing is that terrorism, if you look at terrorism, lot of Indian railways used to be bombed all the time, if you remember. Delhi and Bombay used to be the most bombed cities. All the time you had attacks on railways and everything. So now you find in the Modi era, these terrorist attacks are not happening. You look at their reign in Gujarat, when Amit Shah ji was the Home Minister of Gujarat and Modi ji was the CM of Gujarat. So there they started the war against terrorism, in their tenure in Gujarat. And riots had stopped totally in Gujarat. They are still not happening. Terrorism has almost vanished from that part of the world. And we are seeing that less and less terrorist attacks are happening all over the country. So this is how growth happens in the long run.
So
for example, 6 hours of terrorist attack on 26/11 cost $100 billion to the Indian economy. So if you stop terror attacks, then indirectly you are supporting your economy. So that is the way Ram Rajya will build up.
So if terror attacks can cost us so much, imagine how much war would cost us.
Yes.
So we have to be in a position where nobody dares attack us, and internally nobody dare bomb us. So that's where we need to be. So as
So
we
the
light the
armaments
diyas,
are being-
as we wind up, I'm just.
Has stepped up on defense spending
Yeah,
every
we
year,
have got the
and not just our government today with the precarious situation globally. Every government is allocating huge amount of expenditure to
And the
defense.
Make in India, which is happening in defense sector, is phenomenal. I mean, almost everything is being made here.
Correct. This Make in India is being done by Bharatiya people, no, by people. My whole aspect is individual, society and nation. If Ram consciousness has to come, it has to start from us.
But
We
you know,
all
I
have to
don't-
become as strong, as capable, as
But Anand,
equipped
I
as
don't
Ram.
need to come across, I hope I'm not as a compulsive contrarian or something, but I'm just, you know, something happens to me, some rankles in me if I don't give a reality check. When
Yeah.
you talk of Atmanirbhar, you know, how is it that in spite of the devastation that China caused and wrecked the world economy, wrecked us, killed our jawans, almost an enemy state, how is it that our trade with them is at the highest level of $125 billion? Where is the white paper for Atmanirbharta? Our trade imbalance deficit is $110 billion with China.
Yeah, there is but the details lie in the fine print. The fact is that what you don't have, you will have to procure from somebody.
There is a government report that says 87% of what we procure from China can be procured cheaper from a third country.
If that is the case, then
Yes.
clearly there is food for thought there. There is food for thought there. We leave that for yet another debate. But for the moment, let's as the lamps are lit for Deepavali, let's also hope that we also light the lamp of Ram consciousness within all of us, with the aspect of Maryada, with the aspect of being perhaps the finest among us, among our peers, and perhaps collectively help make Bharat better. Shubh Deepavali to all of you. Thank you very, very much. And as we wind up, let's celebrate the festive time with Manivar. If you like what I'm wearing, it's courtesy them, ladies and gentlemen. Diwali hai. Taiyyar hokar aaiye. Namaste. You have to...